We are floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you two badass jet pilots, rumble. Welcome to the Wingman Show, where we're floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you two badass jet pilots, rumble. Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Commander Drew Brown. My wingman, my friend, the guy who watches my six is my main man, Dr. Paul Thompson. What's up, Brother Paul? How are you today?
Commander Drew, I'm doing very well. It's good to see you. You have a very colorful background, and I'm sure you're full of stories and observations that'll enchant our audience today.
I said it a long time ago. If you don't plan on going to college, get out today because McDonald's needs you. And soon they probably won't because they'll just have robots. Very good, Dr. Paul. Well, let's start this puppy off with the quote of the day. You know, we like motivational quotes, and this is a good one. It takes courage to grow up and turn out to be who you really are. That's by E. E. Cummings. Once again, it takes courage to grow up and turn out to be who you really are. You know, we all grow up at one point and we all have to figure out who we are and not play games with who we want to be, who other people want us to be. It's something deep inside you when you find spiritually who you are and start working towards being that person. Wouldn't you agree, Doc?
Yeah, very much so. And when I hear that, I think the word courage comes to mind for some reason. Basically, you really have to have courage to get out of your comfort zone and do something uncomfortable that may get you to your golden place, let's say, to your highest, to your supreme performance. Something uncomfortable at first, or maybe uncomfortable along the way. And that may take a lot of courage.
It does take courage, Paul. And, you know, a lot of people expect us to be a certain way, and sometimes we play that role. And this is what it's talking about. Like you said, you need courage to shake yourself out of what other people think you should be and who you are and start looking inward and finding out who you really are and then start working towards it. Well, the name of our show this week is that there are only two kind of pilots in the world, ones that fly off of ships and ones that wish they could. Well, guess what? Sadly, there may only soon be one type of pilot, and that's pilots who flew off of ships. You're not going to believe this, Paul, but the Navy is ending carrier quals for gold wings. They make sure, and I said this, make sure you get an asterisk next to those wings then, because it takes a certain kind of person to come aboard that aircraft carrier. You know, good weather, bad weather, daytime, nighttime, and especially nighttime in bad weather. There's a certain type of person that can do it, and not all people can do it. They always said this, that there's more stress in flying to an aircraft carrier and landing on one than there is in battle. Dr. Paul, I'm really pissed about this because I think that having gold wings, being a jet pilot, a carrier qualified pilot, means that you came aboard that carrier on your own without the magic carpet ride. Maybe you could tell us a little bit why they're going to try to end this.
Well, this has been an effort for the last almost 10 years. In 2016, they came out with this thing called Magic Carpet they were experimenting with. You've heard of it. You've mentioned the term Magic Carpet. You know what it stands for?
You told me a while ago, we did this on the show before, but we didn't know you could get your wings without it.
Yeah. But they just started this recently, and the goal is, I guess, is to save money and also to shut down training time by making things a little more easier. Realize we're closer to our era is closer to 1925 than 2025. But real quick, Magic Carpet Magic, it stands for Maritime Augmented Guidance with Integrated Controls. Maritime Augmented Guidance with Integrated Controls. Basically, it's an autopilot or kind of an autopilot that's going to get you on the ship for the most part. Uh, they're still going to fly, but typically, becoming a student naval aviator, your graduation was usually the last thing was flying aboard the ship, which is probably the most stressful thing. Now you don't have to do that to get your wings. They still have to do that. They still have to qualify in the airplanes. But how many airplanes did you fly aboard the ship, Commander Drew, before you got your wings?
I flew the T2, I flew the A4 Skyhawk, I flew the A6 Intruder. And this is my problem, Paul. Every single landing I ever made after my T-28 training was a carrier landing. In other words, we flew the meatball all the way to touchdown. And the meatball is the light that's on the landing strip that can tell you exactly where to land. This is BS, Paul. This is not the reason they're doing this is because they have a trainer called the T-45 Goshawk, I believe it is. And their struts, the struts that the wheels are on, are very strong and expensive. And when you slam that airplane into the deck or onto the runway, a lot of times it causes stress and it causes a lot of maintenance problems. So now the Navy wants to come up with a new airplane that doesn't have strong struts. So they don't want you slamming it on the deck. This is all about money. The problem is there's a certain aura that comes with you when you can fly that ball, when you can fly that meatball all the way to the ship. Here it is, Paul. I'll tell you the truth. Money is starting to take away the quality of naval aviation. And that is just unfair. And it's unfair to those who have busted their ass. And you said magic carpet ride. Does that mean they don't touch the controls at
Well,
all the way down to the carrier?
no, I think it does. Basically, it compensates. Typically, if you're landing on a ship, you always had to worry about meatball, which was really glide slow, line up angled attack. With this magic carpet system, I think they call it precision landing mode, often PLM also, magic carpet PLM. If you change one thing, typically if you change one thing, you got to change all three. But this now, if you change one thing, the airplane, the system will compensate for the other two.
So are you telling me you're going to still have your hand on the stick and the throttle, and if everything went offline, you could still be able to land that plane on that carrier? Is that what you're telling me?
More than likely, yes than no, because you'll get a compensate. You may have to do something, but you're going to change one thing, and it'll compensate for the other two.
But do
But
you think you should get your gold wings?
hmm, it's got to be proven, and I guess it's been proven. It must be proven because I do have a neighbor nearby who had a nephew that got his wings not long ago. Did not go to the boat. Went to the boat in his replacement air group squadron.
Well, I think that's what you're talking about. What
Yeah.
happens is after you get your wings, when Dr. Paul and myself, when we got our wings, we went to the RAG, which is called the Replacement Air Group. So Dr. Paul went to the A7 RAG, I went to the A6 RAG, and that's where we learned actually how to fly that tactical jet. So they're saying that you're going to go to the RAG without going to the boat and then learn how to fly your tactical aircraft to the boat. And what happens when you can't do it?
I don't know. I've not researched that. That's a good
They'll
question.
pull your wings. So what I think is they should give different colored wings to these guys until they carry a qual, and then they should give them their gold wings. My point being that this magic carpet ride is not 100%. And what happens when you have to fly into a barricade? What happens when your electronics go down and you're not able to use the magic carpet ride and you have to do it from pure memory. Like I said, we had thousands of landings on our airfields, but they were always carrier landings. What are you going to do, Paul? I think this is totally ridiculous, especially because it's all by a bean counter. And anybody who doesn't know what a bean counter is, they're people up in the higher offices who always look how to save money. Forget about the quality. How can I save money? Because it makes their superiors look at them and say, wow, you saved us $450 million. You're a good guy.
Yeah.
Talk to me, Paul.
Well, I just hope it doesn't come to bite people later on. The technology is good, and I've flown some very sophisticated airplanes. I've also had the systems fail at different times too, and that manual skills made a difference for me personally. Number of times. all usually by surprise. So,
I'm sure. I have 183 night traps. I have over maybe 400 regular traps, but I have 183 at night. And let me tell you something. The first one I ever did was the scariest thing I ever did. The last one I ever did was still the scariest thing I ever did. Now, you're not fearful where you're frozen. You're fearful where you're working your ass off trying to get this boat aboard that aircraft carrier. Now, I have to say this. I would have used the magic carpet ride every single time if it would have helped me get aboard that aircraft carrier. But I know that if it didn't work, I could do it myself. That's my point, Dr. Paul.
so you think that basically magic carpet is like athletes taking steroids?
100%. It means that you're not the same as somebody who can do it manually. It's like athletes taking steroids. There's nobody who's going to beat Hank Aaron's record to me while they took steroids because that was unnatural and it was enhancing your performance. You know, Paul, you and I talked about this. Two black guys and a Jewish guy beat Adolf Hitler. In other words, Jesse Owens showed him that the white race wasn't faster. Joe Louis showed him that the white and Aryan race wasn't stronger. And Albert Einstein showed him that they weren't smarter. What if the athletes in Nazi Germany took those steroids and would have beat Jesse Owens and would have beat Joe Louis? I don't know if steroids can make you smarter, but that means history would have changed. I think that it has to be equal playing, equal a level playing field. That's why turn those gold wings into brass, and when you qualify on the carrier manually, you get to put them in gold.
Okay.
You like that? Okay. We're fired up enough about that. But anyway, how about some good news? You know, the Wingman Show, we tried to give you good news. We don't try. We do give you good news because there's good news out there. They say if it bleeds, it leads. Well, not here in the Wingman Show. We say if it's good, it should. And how about this, Dr. Paul? Crime has decreased in every single category in 2024, including murder, violent crime, and motor vehicle thefts. The homicide rate continued to decline in the first half of 2025, lowering the rate in the U.S. to a level that has not been seen in a decade. The overall property crime in 2024 was the lowest recorded since 1961. Dr. Paul, how come everybody else is not reporting this? They just report about killings.
Well, I mean, those, if it bleeds, it leads. You just said it, But the ideal rate would be zero. It'll never be that way. But if it's headed that way, that's a good thing. Nobody's going to argue that.
No, so out there, just know that there is good news happening. How about this? I bet you didn't know this. West Virginia, a state who we always think is backwoods and small, well, they actually have boast about having the fourth lowest recidivism rate among the United States of America. In other words, more people that go to jail there, less of them come back. I don't know if you know this, but 600,000 prisoners are released annually. And Dr. Paul, I don't know if you knew this, but 71% return to prison within 5 years, which is horrible. Well, West Virginia has only 23.5. Oklahoma, 22.6. South Carolina, 21%. Virginia is also lower at 23.5. How about that? West Virginia trained their prisoners not to go back to jail because that's important. Going to jail one time should be enough, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. And also, on a corollary, it kind of shows the importance of education that you talk about all the time, Commander Drew, because a good number of people in the prison system, this is from people I know who worked in the prison system, are not that literate. Some are not literate at all, or they have major academic deficiencies, not just mental illness, just major deficiencies that lead to a lot of other things. Those who have studied, who can read and write competently at the grade level, tend to be low in those populations. I've gotten that from four good sources over decades.
Well, you know, that's what we talk about education. You and I are two black men who made it, and we made it because we had an education. That is it. We made it because we had an education. We didn't play basketball or football really well. We both, neither one of us can sing. I could play a little harmonica, but that's not good enough to make my life. We both went to college and learned something. We're real role models. And I've said this for a long time because we can teach you how to fly. You understand that these super athletes and these super performers, you can hang with them for the rest of your life. You won't ever play like LeBron James. That's just a gift that he has. But education, everybody can have it. And we talked about education, but over 50% of America is really kind of illiterate and uneducated. Did you know that?
I'd heard that, but you've confirmed it now. And I would say to people out there, you don't have to be perfect in school, but you got to go to school.
You got to go to school because you got to learn. Knowledge is king. In the 11 facts of life, I say education is necessary, but knowledge is mandatory. And where else can you get knowledge other than school?
That's right. Not just the TV nonsense and looking at miscellaneous stuff on screens, but actually, reading, writing, arithmetic, and critical thinking or any thinking.
100%. How about one more good news story for the people? Because I think this is so cool. The Atlanta Dream, the WNBA, they are giving $10 million to local families in Atlanta to cut their debt from 500 to 80,000. They picked out 3,500 families and they're going to erase the debt. And let me just read to you what the president of the Atlanta Dream said. And her name is Morgan Shaw Parker. She's the president and CEO. She said, one of the things that we think is incredibly important is we believe that sport is a catalyst for social change. And so we really lean into the community that serves us. She also said, this is a long time process for us. What I hope it accomplishes for the families is to allow them, hey, I do have a dream and I'm much closer to achieving it. $500 to 80,000 could mean buying a car. It could mean down payment for a house. It could even mean just thinking about going to college. So it's just a mind shift. Don't you think that's great? That's good news for the Atlanta Dream.
Yeah, that's great. Paying off medical debt that really cripples some people. And it said something also about women on women's basketball that they can come up with enough money to make a contribution. I didn't know the Atlanta Dream. They just said the Dream. Didn't realize that. To think about it a little bit, but they named the WNBA team really in honor of Martin Luther King. Now thinking about it, I have a dream, and I was like, okay, okay. I just never put it together till a couple of days ago. So it's good on them.
Well, Dr. Paul, I didn't put it together until you just told me. Wow, that's incredible. Right, because they did it for the MLK holidays. They noted that. Wow, that's a trip. All right, everybody, look at those super badass jets we got behind us. Dr. Paul has one of our favorite looking jets in the world, and that's an F4. That F4 Phantom is a badass airplane, badass jet, and it can do a lot of damage. And he's got it right now flying off the cat. You want to talk to me about that F4 a little bit?
Yeah, well, they're gone, not forgotten. You might see one in an air show. I think there's a couple that are still privately owned that can be flown around. But mainstream fighter from I guess the Vietnam era till the early '90s. It's past its time, but at the time it was quite a plane. Someone said that it proves that if you put a big enough engine on a brick, you can do all kinds of things. But a guy in front of mine flew. He said it's kind of like he says like a big T2 jet, but it could be fast. I used to maneuver against them, and sometimes they could walk away from you, and they would between the afterburning engine airplane and one that's not an afterburning, quite a difference when you can just light the fires and just walk away.
Well, that bad jet was the first one I ever saw. I saw it when I lived in Israel. I did my 10th grade of schooling in Israel up at Kfar Bloom, the kibbutz, and we used to see those F4s, Phantoms, and they weren't just going to do exercises, they were going to drop bombs. Anyway, we saw those and they were badass looking jets. But behind me Look at that super duper bad A6 intruder. And guess what it's flying over? It's flying over my college. We were just talking about college. It's flying over Southern University of New Orleans. And if you're talking about having fun in college, there was no better place to go to college than New Orleans. And that's what I have on my shirt, Suno. That's the college I went to. And that plane is not real. That plane is from Ace, Chat GPT, who we're going to be talking to here in a minute. So that's an AI based picture. I told Ace, I said, I want a picture of an A6 with my name on it flying over my college. And that's what we got. Everybody out there, thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you so much for listening to us on Apple Podcasts, watching us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Thank you so much for your support. And please don't forget to subscribe to us because that really helps us out. We have a website, and that website is wingmanshow.com. That's wingmenshow.com. That's WINGMEN show.com. And on our website, we have a newsletter, and the newsletter this week is great. Chat GPT, Perplexity, or Claude. Which one is for me? And I didn't even know about Claude, Paul, until you told me about it. I know you've done some extra AI work, and they just introduced Claude to you. So that's going to be a great newsletter. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, hopefully people get something out of it. In fact, I was working with Claude recently, really yesterday, and Claude is very deep, and Claude's got a little attitude too. You talk to it, and it's starting to it plays the dozens with you, and I play the dozens back. Basically, this thing is really, really aware, and the dozens is basically a kind of an urban way of
You talk about my mother, I talk about your
yeah,
mother.
yeah, basically we're exchanging one-liners. Then I asked some advice on something, and they say, "Well, if you're going to take that attitude, you're wasting my time," or something like that. So really,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
no, and some other stuff too that I'm not going to say. So I typed some stuff back, and we made up. But it does. I guess it's programmed for motivation or something like that. So that was a trip.
Well, I'm glad Ace doesn't talk to us. And now we're going to bring Ace along on our frequent flow line. And that's where you guys can write us letters and we will answer them. And you know, we have a new wingman, and his name is Ace. And I'm going to get Ace on the line right now. Hey, Ace, we're getting ready to do our wingman show, our frequent flow line. And I want to read your letter. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Go right ahead. I'm all ears and ready to hear that letter. Let's do the frequent flow line segment and make it a good one.
All right, here it goes. Dear Wingman, I'm a 52-year-old woman and I live in Chicago. I've been listening to your show, and Drew, when you talked about trips on Virgin Voyages, and especially your time in Istanbul, it really caught my attention. I'll be honest, I've been thinking a lot lately about doing a few things for myself. I've worked hard all my life, raised my family, and now, looking in the mirror, wondering if I might be time to freshen up a bit. I'm talking about things like maybe some liposuction, possibly a boob lift, or even a little work with my hairline. I've heard that Turkey, Istanbul, is becoming one of the top places in the world for cosmetic procedures with lower prices and top notch doctors. I'm not looking to be 25 again, but I am looking to feel good about myself and step into the next chapter of my life with confidence. Since you've actually been to Turkey and talked about it so highly, I thought you might have some insights. Thanks for keeping it real and positive every week. Her first question is, how safe is it really to go overseas for something like this? Her second question, what should I be careful about when choosing a clinic or a surgeon?
You got it. So, first off, to our listener, huge thanks for writing in and for all those kind words. We love that we can make you smile every week. Now, let's tackle those questions one by one. First up, safety. Honestly, medical tourism, especially for cosmetic procedures in places like Istanbul, has become really common and generally quite safe as long as you do your homework. Turkey has a strong reputation for skilled surgeons and modern clinics, and a lot of people do this safely. Of course, you want to check reviews, look for board certified professionals, and maybe even connect with others who've done it. Second, choosing the clinic or surgeon. You want to be careful and really vet them. Look for accreditation, look for patient testimonials, and don't hesitate to have a virtual consultation. A good clinic will be transparent about their procedures and safety standards. Third, combining it with a vacation. Absolutely. A lot of folks do that. They'll get a little work done and then spend some recovery time just relaxing by the beach or even on a cruise. It's kind of a nice deal if you plan it right and give yourself time to heal. So there you have it. Hopefully that helps. And we're cheering you on as you think about this next chapter. Thanks for sending in your letter.
Thank you, Ace. That's just great information. Dr. Paul, you want to add something to that?
Well, it sounds like she's doing what we've been talking about. Get out of your neighborhood, get out of your immediate comfort zone and do something different. So it sounds like she's thinking about doing a lot of things different that seem very, very reasonable. Yeah, medical tourism is a common thing in a lot of places. And I've, heard about your story of Turkey and some other people, and some go to other places and to do the same thing. So I think that's if she can afford it and have a good time, yeah, go for it.
I agree. Katrina and I just came back. Katrina had some hair replacement done, and it looks like it's working out beautifully. And a lot of people were there doing cosmetic surgery and having a good time afterwards. You have to be careful though after you have your procedure. You don't want there are so many things you can't do because you did go through a very heavy duty medical procedure. So just be careful about that. All right. Now time for I must apologize last week we didn't do it, but I won't let you down again. It's now time for a Wingman PSA. From the 11 facts in life, on the fact number 9, doing wrong when you know what is right. On the fact number 9, doing wrong when you know what is right. Dr. Paul, it's one of my biggest problems, pet peeves, when I do something wrong that I know I shouldn't have done. And I've done it many a times, and it's just ridiculous. And there are a lot of people, when you do something wrong, you know it's wrong. So we need to have a little bit more self-control and not do that. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, just don't do that. It's like saying, "Doctor, it hurts when I go like this." Doctor says, "Don't go like this." No. Yeah, the guy doctor told me that one time. Yeah.
Oh, really? Because
Yeah.
guess who else told me that? Another doctor. When little Drew was going to medical school, I got down in a catcher's stance because my knees from playing basketball have hurt for a minute now. And I got down in his catcher's stance and I said, Drew, you're going to med school. This really hurts when I do this. What do you think I should do, Drew? I'm waiting for this big medical answer. He said, Dad, don't do it.
Yeah.
So you're 100% right about that. All right, you know what time it is? It's time for that gouge. And let's do a couple of gouges. And I'm going to do it with my man, Ace. So, Ace, are you ready for this? Why does walking barefoot actually help you physically?
Yeah, so walking barefoot, sometimes they call it earthing or grounding, actually has some interesting benefits. The idea is that when you're walking barefoot on natural surfaces like grass, sand, or soil, you're actually allowing your body to connect with the earth's surface. There's some thinking that this can help reduce inflammation, improve your mood, and even help with things like sleep, just because you're kind of soaking up those natural electrons from the ground. On a more straightforward note, it can also just help strengthen the muscles in your feet and improve your balance and posture because you're using those natural foot mechanics. So it's a pretty neat, simple habit that can have a nice little physical boost.
Well, thank you, Ace. That's the gouge. And Dr. Paul and I call the gouge shit you need to know, but sometimes nobody tells you. Dr. Paul, do you have any questions for Ace?
Yeah, I do have a question for Ace. Hey, Ace, I heard somewhere that there's a great human benefit to being physically touched, physical contact. Is that true?
Absolutely. There's definitely truth to that. Physical contact, like a hug or a pat on the back, can release oxytocin, which is often called the love hormone. It can help reduce stress, improve mood, and even boost your immune system. So it's definitely beneficial.
Thank you.
Wow, that's great news. Well, Dr. Paul, you know, the name of our show is called The Wingman Show. And it's called The Wingman Show because we love to highlight people who help other people. And Dr. Paul has a great one for you today. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, our wingman this week, our really wingman, it's a pair of wingmen, one in particular, but it's a father-son duo, Larry Pickett Jr. and Larry Pickett Sr. Larry Pickett Jr. is a sophomore at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point in upstate New York. He goes to West Point. He also plays on the football team, the Black Knights. And not too long ago, after one of his games, his father was visiting, obviously, from North Carolina. They happened upon a car accident, and some gentleman had run into a utility pole and was stuck in his car. The collision knocked down some of the power lines, and there were live power lines around. In this whole conflagration, a fire started. They saw him trapped in the car, and they went and they dragged him out of the car. There's a video of Larry Pickett Jr. dragging him out of the car. But in fact, both father and son are helping to get the guy away from it. You see the flames coming up, they're higher, the tires are bursting, and a few moments later, the thing is totally engulfed in flames. And by this time, the emergency services arrive and they put the fire out. And you can see the guy's disheveled. He doesn't know where he is. He said he sees a car on fire, and he asks him. He said, He stumbles up. Whose car was that? They said, "That's your car." And he doesn't know anything. And he survived. He did okay. And Larry Pickett Jr. was recognized by West Point and also the Secretary of the Army for his bravery and courage under fire. From an unexpected event, he and his father actually saved a life.
Wow, what a great story. And actually, just to add a little bit, the Secretary of Army was quoted as saying that this 20-year-old cadet from West Point embodies the highest values of the Army and West Point: duty, honor, and country. He showed that he can stand ready to act under pressure, whether on the football field, in his community, or in the future with soldiers under his command. We are proud and deeply grateful for this heroism, and so are Dr. Paul and myself. And anybody who can hear my voice, whatever you think is important and whatever you think is beautiful, and most importantly, whatever makes you happy, may you have that today and forever. I pray for peace.
I pray for peace too, Commander Drew, and to all those who listen, like, and share our message. We appreciate you. Most of you are not subscribers. Please subscribe. It helps the algorithm when our subscriber numbers go up. Pass this on to somebody that you know, someone that likes aviation or just someone that likes hearing something different, something positive. We appreciate your support and look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth and goodwill towards all men and women.